welcome to Tonic Studios. I'm Leo. I'm here today with Alison, and we're back with another Tonic Tuesday where we bring you lots of tips, techniques and tutorials. Today we're talking all about beginners card making.
Well, hello. We've got so much to tell you today. We're going to do a little bit of a beginner's guide. I mean, hopefully people that have crafted for many, many years will pick up something, because we never know everything.
No.
And there's probably lots that we've left out of this video
More
as
than
well.
More than likely.
But you can add more in the comments below.
Yeah, if you've got any questions.
Add your tips.
Add tips if you've got any. If you've got any questions, pop them into the comments and we'll come back through after the video and answer as many as we can for you as well.
We certainly will. So we're going to talk about the tools we need first. So let's pop my cards down over there, isn't it? Right. What tools do we need? Should we have a little look?
So we've got a couple of things that we think that are probably going to be like your essential tools, I would say.
Absolutely.
Things that are going to really help you to get started with card making. The first one I think is going to have to be our super trimmer.
So let's bring this in. This is perfect because you've got the measurements on you in centimetres and inches. So whichever is your favourite, go with it. Then we also have...
The other reason, just before we move on to the next one, the reason I love this is because you have both a scoring blade and a cutting blade on here, and you can choose any increment that you want. So that's going to be important for some things.
Yes.
Whereas for our scoring board, if I switch that over.
Let's bring that in. So we have inches on one side and we have centimetres on the other. So it covers 0.5 centimetres and 0.5 inches as well. Sometimes you don't even need to look at what the measurements are.
No.
If it fits in with your card, then just use whichever suits you. We often use it without looking at the measurements, don't we?
That's it, you just take a bit off, don't you? Or
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So you're going to need a scoring tool.
So yeah, we've got a couple of options for this, haven't we?
We've got...
And my
One of our
preferred
ball
option
tool.
is a ball tool. That's how I always learnt to score in a scoring board, was with a ball tool.
Now I love this one because the nib is so fine that you've got a really even fold. But we also have our precision folder. If you're doing dark card, this is a must, because I don't know whether you've used dark card and then reinforced your score line, you've got shiny marks all over it. To me, my card is ruined then, because I don't want to see those shiny marks. This will not give you any marks even on a dark card. So that is another perfect fold. So what else do we have?
So I've also got on here a glass mat. Now the reason that I love using this for card making is because of the grid that we've got on the mat. It helps to line things up for me.
It does. If I take that away.
There you go.
Ooh.
So you can see, obviously we've got one of our white mats here. So this one has obviously card sizes on here too, which is nice and handy. But you've got this lovely grid that you can use to help you line layers up.
Yeah.
You can use it as a measuring tool as well. You've got your rulers around the outside. So on the left and bottom you start at 0 in the corner, and then on the top and on the right you start at 0 in the centre. So you can use these for centre marking, making sure you're right in the centre,
which is lovely.
Card. Yes, very, very handy.
Yeah.
So either this or a ruler if you don't have a glass mat, and that's not an option for you at the moment, just a standard ruler. I've got a nice metal one that I use that has nice inch and centimetre increments on there. But again, it's going to help you to line things up, get things straight and even where they need to be.
If you're going to use any sort of cutting tool, you will need a metal ruler.
Yes.
Because you can guarantee if you've got a plastic ruler and you're using a blade down the side of it,
you're going to cut into it.
You're going to have chunks taken out of it.
You're going to have that little whirly bit of plastic come off the side. Yeah,
we've all done that, all of us. So that is another. So you're going to need a pencil.
Yeah, definitely. We all write notes as we're doing things. We kind of add little score lines or little marks where you want things to go. You're going to want to do that in pencil so you can obviously erase it again afterwards.
You may need stamping blocks, stamp platform, scissors, and of course adhesive. And it's the adhesive of your choice. Do you prefer a sticky tape? Do you prefer a glue? Our preference here is always a glue.
Yeah, we are wet glue people through and through.
Absolutely. If you want, if you want your project to have longevity, then you need to think of glue, because tape sits on the top of your card, and at some point that tape is going to dry out, and your project will fall apart.
Unfortunately, yes.
The glue sits into the paper, and it adheres the two pieces together. So it kind of
makes new paper, doesn't it, between the two layers?
So they kind of go in like that rather than like that.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can describe it. Because the bit in the middle with that is going to break away.
Yeah.
But that, they're melded together.
Exactly. So yeah, whatever is your preference, and depending on how you're going to decorate your card, obviously that's going to affect your choice of what other tools that you're going to need. We can't cover everything. It's simply impossible.
No.
But hopefully you'll have some idea of the kind of things you want to put on your card, and you'll have those to hand as well.
So the next thing you're going to need is a card blank. Now that could be one that you've pre-bought, the size is there ready for you, or you cut your own. And you can do custom sizes then. So let's show you what we've got.
So we're talking about card blanks. Obviously we do sell a range of them, but we want to have a look first of all at the card stock that you're going to want to use. If you're going to be making your own card blanks, what would you say would be the best?
Depending on how big your card is, because the size of your card, if it's a small card, doesn't need to be a heavy card stock, because obviously you're going to put less decoration on it. If you've got a little A2 card, which would be this size, you're going to have less decoration on that than maybe something like this, which is going to be your A5. And this is going to be heavier, so you're going to need a little bit thicker card. So for a bigger card, I would definitely recommend a 300 GSM. For a smaller card, you can still use a 300 GSM, but you could also use a Craft Perfect 216 GSM
so
as well.
Classic weight to 216 would work. What I would say, if you are making a card blank yourself using our Craft Perfect Classics, the 216, I would make sure that you definitely add a couple of mats and layers on the front and on the inside to stop it splaying or bowing. Yes. Because sometimes you'll get it where your pieces don't stay nice like that. They'll kind of get a bit of a a bit of a Chinese pagoda.
They have a bit of a Doris Day bit, don't they? You know, where you have flicks
do.
On the side, it kind of looks like that.
So by adding those extra mats and layers, obviously, as you know, whenever you add another layer on, you're increasing the GSM. And by doing that, you're going to give your card blank that little bit more structure.
Absolutely.
So shall we have a look then at some common card sizes? Now, as Al said, you can make a card any size you want it to be. If you're making your own card blank, that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely.
You just have one piece of card that you score down the middle, or two pieces of card that you put together, and that's your card blank. We sell a couple of different sizes, and then there are some other common sizes that we've sort of made up for you as well. So we've got an A2.
We have a USA 6. We have a 5x7. Let me just pop this one out. Sorry for the crackling. I should have got these out first. We have a 6x6. So again, it depends what you want to put on your card, isn't there?
And the beauty of buying card blanks is, of course, they do come with appropriately sized envelopes.
Absolutely.
If you're making your own card blanks, you're going to have to source envelopes separately.
Or a box.
Or you make a box to put your card into, yeah.
So we also have a 7x7. So that is the size of cards we have at Tonic. And they come in white, they come in ivory, and some come in craft as well. Not all, but some come in craft. So it's a nice little selection, and we've covered all the basic sizes there, haven't we? So if I move these out to the way, and I can bring some more in then.
So the other sort of common card sizes that we work with, now this is one that I use more often. This is a UK A6. So this would be a piece of A4 cardstock cut in half and then folded in half again. So it's slightly different from, marginally, not hugely different from an A2. It's slightly longer and slightly narrower, and it's slightly different again from a US A6. But obviously because we work from A4 cardstock, this means you get 2 card blanks from a single sheet,
yes,
which is what most people I think in the UK would tend to do. The other one then would be a UK A5.
Let's bring that one in.
Which is not that one,
No,
that one.
that
There
one.
we go. So that is just a sheet of A4 folded in half.
So that's a nice big base, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Out of one piece of card, that's the biggest you're going to get.
Yes.
In the UK. Then we have...
Now this is an 8x8.
You're not going to get this out of one piece of card, though.
You are not.
You're going to need 2.
So we'll show you in a second how we make a card blank that size. The other 2 card blank sizes that we've got then are slimline. So we have a regular slimline. Now these were back when, before card making was really popular, envelopes came in 2 sizes. I found out about this yesterday.
Oh, did you?
You had either letter size envelopes or you had A2. That was basically it. That was the only envelopes that you could buy. So a letter size envelope is, you know, all of those letters that you get from businesses where they fold their sheet of A4 or 8.5 by 11 into 3 and put it into one of those long thin envelopes. That is a letter size envelope. So this card blank, the slimline, is basically what card makers designed to fit into those envelopes because that's what was available.
Perfect.
So there you go. You've learned something today.
I have.
There are no really standard measurements as long as it fits into one of those envelopes. This one we have done, so it's basically 2/3 of your sheet of cardstock folded in half. So for an A4, you're not going to quite do 2/3 because it's 21 centimetres wide and it is lengthways 29.5.
Yes.
So I think we did this at 20 and folded it in half. So it's going to be 10 by 21.
That makes sense.
I had to really think about that then. There was a lot of maths involved. Could you tell?
Oh my word. And then you also have a mini slimline, which is a cute little size.
I love mini slimlines.
Beautiful.
And this is 3.25 by 6.25 inches. So we're going to have to apologise. We are going to switch between metric and imperial quite a lot throughout this video because depending on the card blank that you're using, you're probably going to stick with the increments that card blank is made from. So if I'm talking A4, I'm probably going to talk more in centimetres.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at like a 5 by 7 inch card, we're going to talk in inches.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to bear with us and we'll try and make sure that we say inches or centimetres after any numbers that we repeat from now on.
So there's a lot of cards there, isn't there? A lot of different
Lots
sizes.
of variety of sizes, exactly. And I think, you know, you can really decide what is going to suit best your recipient.
Yes.
The kind of card that you want to make, how much time you have. Obviously, if you've only got 20 minutes to make a card, don't go for an 8x8 card.
No,
Probably that's a lot of ground to cover in 20 minutes. The smaller your card, obviously, the less decoration that you're going to need.
And also think of your postage.
Yes.
Because the more you're going to put on that card, the heavier you're going to make it. If you've got foam pads, it's going to make it thicker. It's going to go from a normal flat letter then in the UK to a large letter.
That's it. I think some of the bigger card sizes wouldn't actually fit into the letter slot.
No.
They would automatically be a large letter just because of the size of them. So something else to bear in mind.
Width-wise, it's as long as it's under 2.5 centimetres for a large letter.
So
width, yes.
Depth for us.
Depth.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is something to consider if you're handing cards to people.
Go mad. The bigger the better.
Put the lot.
Yeah.
Put the lot.
Fold a sheet of
there.
A3 in half and let's,
Absolutely.
Or stick 2 sheets of A3 together even. Why not? Make it a big card. That would be a huge card. Could you imagine?
It certainly would.
That's one of the ones that goes around the office, you know, for a leaving card or something like that.
Yes, it is. It is when you've got a big office. If you've only got 2 people, then you don't need that.
No, probably an A2 would be absolutely fine for that, wouldn't it? Shall we look at then how to make card blanks?
Right. Shall I bring this one in? Or are we going to go from...
No, that's fine. You go ahead. You can make us a nice big card blank first of all.
Okay. So this is our 8x8. Let's get some cardstock, is it? So we're going to look at this, and we got to 6 inches, so I'm going to need to pop out my extra legs. So we'll bring that out, and the other one, and this gives us a bigger surface. So check which blade you've got. So my blue blade is my cutting blade. The grey one up here, you can see that one, is a scoring blade. So I want to cut my card to start with, and I'm going to cut it at 8 inches. So make sure you butt it up to this bar, press down and just cut. Oh, I didn't catch the end. Let me come back. There we are. So that is one side done, and I've got a little bit to trim on the other side. What you may also find as well is cards that you buy, if it says 8x8 and you measure it, they may have gone by the envelope size, not the card size. So you may find that they're a little bit smaller. So if you are making cards for pre-bought envelopes, check your envelope size and make it a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
It's usually about 1/4 of an inch.
Could you imagine if you'd gone to, you know, spent hours making this beautiful card,
And then you don't have an envelope.
Yeah, the envelope is the same size, and you have to trim around the edge of your card.
Horrendous.
Yeah, no.
Horrendous.
Wouldn't want to do that.
I'm going to show you 2 ways to make this. So you either cut 2 squares, both 8x8 inches, or you can cut one. I'm going to go to 8.5 inches on the one side and 8 on the other. So let's line all these up. There we are. Why have I gone to 8.5? So that I can have a little bit of a flap over at the back. So take out my cutting blade, because I only need a scoring blade now. And I'm going to score this at 8 inches. There we are. So there's my score line. Fold that.
And this is where your paper crease is going to come in handy.
Absolutely,
so you make sure
I'm going to move that out to the way.
A very nicely burnished score line.
Let's grab this one. Yeah, because you don't want it splaying.
No.
Run your tool along the edge. And there's nothing more satisfying than a neat crease, I think. So this card then slots. You can either put it inside or you can pop it outside on that tab. Entirely up to you. If your cutting is not accurate, then you can turn it over. As you can see, mine's not perfectly there. You can trim that off afterwards. So we're going to glue this together. Let's pop a little bit of glue along the back. Oh, I'll use the one without the fine nozzle. There we are. Hold on, maybe I've got a better cut that side. There we are, that's better. So we fold that over. You can always decorate the back. You can make a feature out of that then.
And so you could put a strip of patterned paper down the side.
Absolutely, absolutely. A little bit of glue. Fold over. Make sure you're all lined up. Up to the fold. And press down. Again, if you run your paper creaser over the top, there is your card. And that could be a tent card, because it's a square or a side card. The other way of doing it, you cut 2 pieces of card, both 8 inches. You do a score line, and that is about 1/2 inch down, the same. But you glue the tab to the other side. And that makes your card as well. So you have, if I show you from the top there, you have a little bit that's joined together.
Yeah, so the back of your card is technically 7.5 inches by 8 inches rather than the full.
There's the difference of the two. And it's preference, really, isn't it? There we go. So that is how to make a bigger card than you've got cardstock for.
Yes.
Because this could be a 7x7, it could be an 8x8.
Can you get a 6x6? I don't think you can.
You can't get a 6x6 either. No. You can do a 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. And if your envelope is a 6x6,
the 5 3/4 is perfect. Yeah,
it's perfect. Exactly. So that is how to make a large card. What if we wanted to make a smaller card? So I'm going to pop my blade back on. Make sure it's sliding properly. We'll take those away. Obviously not going to waste them because they're going to be used in your card making.
So are you doing the A4 or the 8.5 by 11?
Shall I do the 8.5 by 11 then?
Sure, okay.
Yeah? So
yes, we're going to try and make this as inclusive as possible. So for you, those of you that have 8.5 by 11 cardstock rather than A4.
This is the difference.
Yes.
Let me show you. So the white one is the UK size. The red one is the US size. So the US is a little bit shorter, but it's a little bit wider. And that is why your cards are a different size. So there are two different types of cards. There's a hot dog.
A hot dog and a hamburger.
So we'll show you both. And you're going to score and cut in a different direction. But you get two cards out of each piece, whichever direction you've chosen to do them. So this is 8.5 by 11, as we said. So I need to go 4 1/4 inches. So let me make sure I've got my 4 1/4. There we are. Also, make sure that your cardstock is square before you start off, because not all cardstock is exactly the right size. So make sure that it's straight. You can see your lines up the side. I think we're just about right on this one. I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, so.
So look at your lines up the side. You use your tools. Your tools will always help you.
That's it. So our trimmers and guillotines have, their bed is in 1/4 inch squares. So that's going to really help you if you are working in inches.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go all the way. I think I may need to take this off, actually.
Potentially, yes.
I should have done that first, shouldn't I?
Okay.
There we are. So that I can go right to the end. There we are. So we've got two cards in half. So now I'm going to score. So we're going to go this way. I'm going to need my scoring tool for this. Again, pop it back in. And this is going to be scored at 5 1/2 inches. So I'm on my 5 1/2 inch line. Go to the bottom and just score. So this is my hot dog fold. So this gives me a landscape card that opens that way, but it will also give me a tall card as a tent card as well. So the other way then is to do the reverse. So where I've cut for this one, I'm going to fold, and where I folded, I'm going to cut. So let's take that out first. So we're going to go to 5 1/2 inches. Let me just go over there, check my line is straight, and cut. And then the opposite way then to score, pop my blade back in. There we go. And I'm going to go to 4 1/4, which is there. There's my fold. So if I move that out the way for a second, again, fold it in half, do your burnishing, and there are your two sizes that you can cut from an 8x11, 8x11 and a half.
8.5 by 11.
8.5 by 11. A US letter size. That's your cards. So that is your, depending on which way you want them to look, you can turn either one. They're exactly the same size.
Mm-hmm.
It's just where your fold line is. So folds on the side or folds on the top.
Perfect. And we can do exactly the same with A4. So if we shimmy around each other.
Round the outside.
Do-si-do around. Here we go. So I don't need the arms for this, which is very handy. So A4, obviously it's going to be different, and I'm going to work in centimetres.
Okay.
Because that's how I know A4.
Right.
In centimetres. So if I was to do, which one should I do first? Let's take this out. So I do mine the other way round.
Do you?
I do. So I'm going to start by scoring. Because I want to make, this as quick as possible. So if I score at 10.5 centimetres, that's halfway across my 21 centimetre width. Take that out, pop my scoring blade out, put my cutting blade back in. I love how simple that is to do.
Oh, it's easy, isn't it?
And then this is where it gets a little bit difficult in centimetres. A4 is 29.5 centimetres long.
But you can always chop
you can chop a bit off if you want to. A lot of people will go to 14.5 at this point.
Yeah.
If you want to use every single bit, you want to go to 14.85.
I would have chopped it off.
And then I'm going to cut through. And now I have my 2 card blanks scored. I'm ready to go, you see. So there's my hamburger fold. Let's just burnish that. Just like that. And because I scored it first, these are both now ready to go.
They're ready to go. You could even have a little cutting your card blanks.
Card blanks, exactly. Like, okay, we always talk about this, Christmas cards. It's probably the cards that we make the most of, other than perhaps birthday cards throughout the year. Although maybe it'll be the same, because you probably send birthday cards to the same number of people you send Christmas cards to.
Possibly, but
More
you don't
than
make
likely.
them all at the same time.
No, you don't. So coming up to Christmas, the first thing that I would do, sit and make card blanks for the day. You can put the telly on.
Where you don't want to think as well.
Yeah, put the TV on or put an audiobook on. Just sit and make card blanks, and then if you're going to be matting and layering, cut your mats and layers as well, and we will get to that next. So let me do my hot dog fold. I don't even know why they're called these.
I was about to ask, why is it called hamburger and hot
I don't
dog?
know. It's just the way that I have learnt them. I was taught this at one point, that where you've got a long fold, it's a hamburger, and where you have a short fold, it's a hot dog. I guess because of how they look. I don't know.
Or it can just be a landscape and a portrait.
Or it could be that, yeah. So again, I'm going to 14.85. So basically I'm going between the 14.8 and the 14.9 line on my centimetre track, because I am going in metric. There we go. So I'm going to put my score in that way this time. Pop my... Are you Googling now? I can hear you on the keyboard in the background. Cam has to know why it's called a hot dog and a hamburger fold.
I'd never heard about it until you said.
No. Maybe it's just the crafty circles that I was in at the time.
Maybe.
So, 10.5. Again, your A4 is 21 centimetres wide, so half of that is 10.5. Cut down there. Ta-da, 2 card blanks ready to go. And again, I'm just going to fold these.
That's the shape I like.
Yeah, you prefer these, do you?
I don't know why, because they're exactly the same shape.
Yeah, there we go. 2 card blanks, 1 sheet of card. I love how easy that is to do. Do you have any wisdom for us? Have you found an answer?
No, it's just placing. So I'm looking at like images, and there's one where it's got a hot dog style fold, and they just placed a hot dog in there. And then there's a hamburger style fold, and they just placed a hamburger in there. So the hot dog one is the longer card, and then the hamburger is the shorter card, judging from this picture.
Fair enough. I guess it's just the buns, right? You have a long, thin bun for a hot dog, and you have a wide, short bun for a hamburger. I mean, I don't know. This is just how I know them as.
There's literally no explanation. It's just card folds and pictures of hamburgers and hot dogs.
However you name them, if you want to call them hamburger and hot dog, or portrait and landscape. Thank you. I was thinking vertical then. That's not the other way. Portrait and landscape.
You can have a vertical and a horizontal.
Oh, that, yes. But these are the card blanks that you can make yourself. Next up then, we're going to talk about how to mat and layer your cards. It's probably something that you've heard of when people talk about card making, matting and layering, and we've already said it, I think, multiple times in this video as well. It sounds like a really complicated thing, and it actually really isn't. It's literally just adding other layers to your card. And when we talk about matting and layering, we tend to talk about like the different sizes and increments that you work in.
Yes.
So we have two basic card blanks here. We've got one that is a 6x6, so inches again, and we've got a 5" by 7" card blank, which again are two fairly common card sizes. One of them is square, one of them is not. And we're going to show you how to mat and layer onto your cards and how you can make it look different depending on the type of card that you want to do.
Why do we mat and layer? That's the first question.
Good point.
It brings your eye into the focal point of the card. So your eye is going to be wherever is in the centre. So as the layers come in, that's where your eye is focused.
So if you had, say, a tiny stamp, let me just pull this away. If you had a little stamp that said happy birthday, and you had this whole big card and just one little happy birthday stamp here, it's going to get very lost on that huge expanse of card. So by adding some layers, you're going to bring down the working canvas, if you like, of your card, so that your little stamp will make a lot more sense on a layer, say, that's this big.
Absolutely it will. So what have we got here? This is our 6x6 card. So we've got a square card. So our layers are not always, they don't have to be square.
No.
But generally. So we've started off, we've come in quarter of an inch. I wasn't sure whether they were quarter or half then.
They are labelled on the
Leo
back for
them.
you, so if you're unsure, double check.
So we come in a quarter of an inch. The next one then, we could come in another quarter of an inch.
So 1/2 inch smaller than your card blank.
And then we could put our feature then in the centre. What if our feature's not that big? Right, take that one out. We could come in 3/4 of an inch. So we've got a bit more colour on the outside. And then we can add another layer. That's 1 inch smaller now than our main card. But we can come in further again. I love seeing a nice big border on the main card. So we come in again by another 1/4 inch. And this is 4 3/4 by 4 3/4.
So it's 1 1/4 this time off your card blank size.
The one thing you do need to look at is make sure that your outer edges are even. Because I think that adds to the professionalism of your card. So even though these are not stuck, I'm trying to look at it that everything is straight. You need to make sure that edge is straight with that edge. They are straight as well. So you've got the same amount all the way around. But I could also add another layer to that. I can take that one away and we can have 2 large layers.
And by changing up the different increments that you have around the edge, you're going to change the look of your card.
Absolutely.
And if you're using, say, I don't know, a nice patterned paper, you're going to want to see more of that patterned paper. So you're probably going to want a larger increment between your layers.
So we could do the 2 layers on the outside, then come in. So your larger colour is your second layer in then. Try and make it a little bit more central.
Say you were using a mirror cardstock and you just wanted that tiny little hint
Yes.
of gold around the edge. You could even bring this in 1/8 of an inch. So you've got
Yes,
just a
you
tiny
could.
fine line all the way around the edge.
You could.
Just to give it that little border. So it's something to play with, and it'll be something that will be your preference, I think.
I
and
think so.
Probably will vary from card to card as well.
Yes.
And you could even, if you didn't want to have a thin board around here, you could start on, say, the 1/2 inch. So you didn't have the red
Take
layer,
that
you
one
just
away.
have the blue layer, and you've got a bigger border of your card base.
It might depend on how much card you've got in the one colour.
Mm-hmm.
It may be you've only got a smaller amount. I mean, we could take all the outer ones away and come right into the middle. So it's almost like a picture frame then. Your outside has got a lovely border.
And you could stamp in the background onto your card blank around the
Absolutely.
edges. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you could add some decorative pieces to that as well.
Yes. You could even ink around the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Or the layers as well. Add a little bit of a faux layer.
Super
So-
simple. And this you can repeat on the inside of your card as well. So you could mirror the layers that you've got on the front. Obviously, probably not all of them. If you've added 5 layers to the front, don't put 5 layers on the inside. That might be a little bit too much.
How
But maybe
much-
the top 2 layers that you've got on the front, you could put on the inside.
How much do you have to say as well? Do you have a lot you need to write? That may depend on your layer inside.
They might.
If you're only going to put a very small message, then
Just
you
put a
may
small
go
layer.
with smaller layers. Or you have one big one and then a little one inside.
Don't forget as well, if you are using a darker card, if you're using a black card blank, you're going to need somewhere on the inside to write. Unless you're
Yes.
planning on using a white pen or a gold pen, probably you're going to need somewhere that's white or ivory or a paler colour to write on, which is why matting and layering the inside of your card is important.
Absolutely.
And I think it helps it to look a little bit more finished as well.
I mean, we've just talked about straight layers here, haven't we? What about a little bit of a quirky layer? So we've got 2 smaller ones here. What about offsetting them?
Yep.
That leaves a little bit of a jaunty angle then. Now, some people that offends their eye. I love a jaunty angle, but struggle to make it.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say then is maybe have one of them that lines up with the outside and you offset the second one.
I'm trying to think if we've got any examples.
Because I think if you offset everything,
Coffee one. That one.
There we go.
It's-
There's a...
it does kind of put your eye out, doesn't it? Because the top one there is lined up with the outside, but the bottom one is put a little bit
Offset.
skewed.
Yep.
So, nice idea.
Super simple. And of course, so that was on a 6x6. We do have the same exact set of layers for a 5x7 as well, so you can see how they look. So there's your 1/4 inch step in.
Then we can come down another 1/4 inch. Again, make sure your layers are even all the way round. And we can do another one. You know, this may be, your outer may be a mirror card, gold or a silver. Then you could come down to a colour and you could go back to your main card colour then. And then you
So
could
you're-
come down again if you want to. So if that's your main card colour, leave a little bit of a gap and come down again. And again, all the time, I'm bringing my eye in.
And so until you get to your working canvas, if you
And-
like, the main focal point of your card.
Absolutely. And that's either side. But you could also, right, if I line all these up on the bottom, hold on. You could also layer that way.
Mm-hmm.
So you're bringing your eye down to this corner. And this could be where your feature is here.
Yep.
So a lot of ideas. Circles I like doing now with, bringing them all down.
Yeah, it's a great one. But you don't have to make your layers the same shape as your card. There's one here that I just want to bring in. So this is a large rectangular card, but we've got layers that are the same length, but they come in on the width. So your layers don't have to be
No, they
the
don't.
same proportions is the word I was looking for. There we go, found it. They don't have to be the same proportions as your card blank. You can layer any way that works for what you're trying to do.
And you can also add different size layers to the top as well. So my focus is brought to here, but my messages are on different shape layers. So that's another nice little way to do it.
So it's a really complicated set of words, matting and layering. You know, what does that even mean? And hopefully this has helped to explain it and kind of demystify it a little bit, because it's something that people talk about all the time in card making. Oh, you know, don't forget your mats and layers, and then nobody really explains.
No.
What do you mean by that?
So hopefully we've demystified it all for you. So now we're going to talk about some backgrounds. How do you do your backgrounds? What do you put on your backgrounds? So let's start. We're talking about the matting and layering earlier. Look at this one. So you've got your lovely mirror card, your increment, you've come into another layer of mirror card, and then you've got an embossed background on this one. So that, some people struggle with white space.
Yes.
And you have to have something on that white space. So an embossed background makes a lovely detail, but you can still keep your white space. And your white space is anything that doesn't have any pattern on it or doesn't have any colour on it. So that is really pretty. So moving on, we can do a little bit of stamping in the background. So we've got a stamp behind our layer. So it's just kind of peeking through here. But this is 2 layers of white. So it still brings your eye in, but not as much because you haven't got colour behind the white. But it's still a lovely way to do it.
And again, we're using different layers. You've got one that's the same proportion with the stamp.
Yes.
And then you've got a different size layer.
And again, more stamping. What about some inking? So here's some inking with a little bit of colour in on top. And then your focal point in the middle then with your hello friend. Another bit of inking. What about a stencil? These are things you can do, you know, when you've got an afternoon free. We talked about cutting all your card blanks. What about creating backgrounds? So a nice little stencil, and then you've added a little bit of ink on here. Again, it's still, even though it hasn't brought your eye in from the side, it's still brought your focus in to our little monster in the middle, because the colour is coming straight into him.
Exactly.
It's beautiful. What about a little bit of shimmer powder? So again, the black background brings your eye in again, and the colour is just behind your lettering. I love shimmer powder.
Me too. Me too.
So we've got a pattern paper here, but also added a little bit of stamping. Again, we're bringing our eye in.
So your background doesn't have to be something that you've created. It could be some glitter card. It could be a piece of patterned paper. It could be anything that you have that you want to use as the background for your focal point, whether that's a sentiment, a stamped image.
Yes.
You know, whatever you want to put on your card, basically.
But don't forget, you can also use wrapping paper. You know, if you've had a lovely present, it's beautifully wrapped and you love the paper. We all like to do a little bit of recycling now, don't we? You could reuse it. Just cut whatever you need, cut the bits that have been creased and just keep the bit that's straight. You can use that on your cardstock.
Absolutely. Be a lovely layer.
This one is washi tape. So they've been laid on a card and then cut at different angles and then offset. So that's a nice layer. Again, have a look what you've got in your stash. What can you reuse? What can you recycle?
Like backgrounds like this are perfect for using up any little scraps. You know when you're cutting your 6-inch, say, card blanks, and you're going to end up with strips at the end. Use all of those strips. If you've got lots of coloured strips and pieces like that, you know, you can start building those up to make a background.
Absolutely.
That you could then use for another card. You're getting more out of your scraps and your supplies.
Or if you've got multicoloured cards, you can just offset them a little bit. Cut them a different lengths. Yeah.
Stick them all down.
Nice effect. What if you've got nothing to hand, but you've got some pens? What about creating a background with your pens? These are just lines drawn with the pen, but again, they make a lovely focal point.
So simple cards, they are exactly that, simple. It should be something that you can put together fairly quickly, using supplies that you have at hand. You don't have to go out and buy die cutting machines, or you don't have to have stacks of pattern paper. You might have just a little bit of something, and that will be perfect for putting into the background of your card. Just try and pick something that's going to complement the theme of your card, or whatever you're wanting to put as your focal point on the top.
So now we're going to share with you some ideas of how to make some simple cards.
That's it. Let's put all of this into practice. So I am going to make, of course, a small card. Probably of no surprise to anyone. So I have gone with an A2 craft card blank for myself. I've done my matting and layering. So I have some beautiful copper cardstock. Isn't that lovely? And I think it works very nicely with the craft as well. Hopefully you are getting the sheen on there. And I made myself a little background. So this was just a stencil that I embossed onto, again, another piece of craft card. But before I embossed it, I just covered it in some green embellishment mousse, and then went over the top with a copper embellishment mousse after embossing it to give me that kind of relief look. So you've got the green underneath,
It's lovely.
copper over the top. I do have a join, so I'm going to fix that on my finished card. So start by gluing some layers
An
together.
embellishment covers a multitude of things.
Absolutely, there are no mistakes in crafting.
Absolutely.
Just reasons to embellish.
Yes. That's what a butterfly is for.
Yeah, that's what a crystal drop is for.
Bit of ribbon.
Bit of ribbon. Yeah, exactly. So
The main thing is that you enjoy making them.
Yes.
And I think there's so much pleasure from sitting and making a card, whether it's something that you keep in a little box to give someone on their special day, or whether you send it straight away to someone who's having a bit of a tough time and you've made it especially for them. I think everyone loves to receive a card.
Yes, definitely. So my first layer is on. That is ready to go. I'm actually going to emulate my layers on the inside of my card as we go along. So I have a bit more of this lovely copper mirror that I'm just going to cut down, if I can remember the sizes. So I'm going to use one of my patented measuring techniques here. Run it up to the blade. How big is this? So this is an A2 card blank, so it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2.
Yeah.
It is. Good. So I'm going to cut this too. Let's go for, I want a little, I don't want to write a lot in this card. So I'm going to go for
You haven't got a lot to say today.
Not a lot to say, no. So I'm going to go for a 3 3/4. So 1/2 inch smaller. Yes, that's right, isn't it?
Yes.
I had to really think then.
Yes.
You've got me working in inches, you see. So 3 3/4
I know
by
you don't do inches often, do you?
5. Yes.
Yes.
4 1/4, 5 1/2. Yeah. Okay, so it's going to be the first layer for the inside of my card. Got another bit more craft as well. So I went with 3 3/4. So let's go to 3 1/2. No, let's go to 3 1/4. Let's go down a bit more. Stagger those increments. Yes. And then I did 5, so I'm going to do 4 1/2.
But these then could go on the front of your card as a little banner, couldn't they?
Was that right?
Yes. Perfect. They could be bold on the front of your card.
Yep, so
Bring
you've got,
that in.
you know, the little scrappy pieces that I've got there could definitely be used for other things. And I'm
Don't throw anything away.
definitely not. So glue up my layers. Now I'm going with flat layers for this. So I'm just using wet adhesive to stick everything, pretty much everything. I'm going to give myself a little caveat there. A get out of jail free card.
So you're thinking about postage and everything
yes,
then?
that's it. If I want to post this card, less layers the better. So there's a nice size border around that one. This is then going to go inside my card. Just to finish it off, I do think having a couple of layers on the inside helps to give your card that kind of finished look. And if you can bring in some of the decoration from the front into your card as well, I think that also helps. So now are my layers on the inside. nicely lined up. Smooth those into place. So, card is looking good so far. Bit plain, but we're getting there. So I'm going to start working then on this piece. So this is my canvas layer, if you like. This is the top layer of my card where all of my decoration is going to go. I have previously made myself this little wreath. So I brought in a stamp club. You know me, love a stamp club.
You love a stamp.
This is my default go-to when I'm making cards. So this was the Wild Campfire Critters. Yes, that's what I meant. Not wild anything.
No.
Campfire Critters. And what I did to make this, I drew myself 2 circles. I drew around, I think I had a die or something on my desk. Just 2 circles. So a larger one and a smaller inner one. And I took this tiny little acorn stamp, a little oak leaf, and I just stamped myself a wreath within and slightly over the edge of those 2 circles. And then I fussy cut this, which you don't want to watch me do on camera, trust me.
What's fussy cutting?
What is fussy cutting? That is a very good question. That is where we simply use a pair of scissors, and I like to go for the smaller.
Smaller the better.
Smaller the better. So, you know, there's no die that's going to cut this because I have stamped this randomly myself. Obviously, you're not going to have a die that unfortunately is going to fit your random stamping. So I literally took my scissors and I just cut all the way around the edge. And then I poked a hole in the middle and cut around the inside as well. I have stamped a couple extra and coloured them in, and I will fussy cut these so you can see. Let me just snip this one off. So,
Off you go.
it's been a while since I've done something this small. So I like to use small scissors when I'm fussy cutting. I find it gives me, especially when I'm cutting small pieces like this, gives me a closer cut. And you want to move your cardstock, not your scissors. So your scissors stay still and you move the cardstock as you're slightly closing the blade. So just keep going around. I'm leaving myself a little border around the stamped image. Cam, can you actually see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Good.
That's the plan.
I am pleased with that. I would hate for you to actually not be able to see. So...
But they could be added to the inside, couldn't they? Is that the
that
plan?
was the plan.
Oh, lovely.
So I'm going to do 1 or 2 on the outside and then 1 for the inside. Like I say, bring some of your exterior decoration onto the inside. If you are just stamping straight onto a layer, add one of those stamps, say to the corner of the inside of your top mat.
Very pretty.
So there's one little leaf, perfectly cut. Let's grab my little acorn. Do exactly
They
the
are
same
so
again.
cute.
I love these. And I've gone for a sort of more masculine or definitely less feminine colour palette and theme. So, you know, I know we're always struggling for cards for the non-girly people in our lives.
That doesn't have to be masculine.
No,
either,
exactly. I was
does
going to
it?
say, my wife is definitely on the not girly scale. She would hate it if I gave her a card. Well, no, she wouldn't hate it. If I made her a card, she would love it regardless. But she would prefer if it didn't have pink flowers all over the front. Let's put it that way.
Mine's very much the same.
So, little acorn.
She's not a girly, is she?
No,
Not a
no.
frilly girly.
No, wedding was the first and only time she's worn a dress. The
Oh,
first time and only time
bless.
she's only worn high heels as well at the wedding.
Oh, wow.
Everyone was thoroughly impressed that she was able to walk around in heels.
That is very
Oh.
impressive to just put them on for the first time.
Absolutely.
I wore cons to my wedding because I was like, nope.
Well, I said to her, I was like, why don't you just wear Converses on Vans? Because that's what she's used to. But she was like, no, I'm going to wear heels. But since then, she's said, never again.
Done it once, that's it. Not again.
Okay, last one almost done. Little leaf.
Fussy cutting is a lovely little technique, isn't it? And this can be done with your feet up, watching the TV in the evening.
Absolutely, it can. So there we go. I have myself 2 little leaves and a little acorn ready to go. So I have some hessian here. Now again, probably a bit of fussy ribbon is not quite the look that I'm going for. I think a bit of hessian is going to work much better for this. So I'm going to snip this. And Mariali is going to look away because I'm going to use some tape.
There's a glue gun by the side as well.
There is... I could use a glue gun, but I'm just going to use tape.
Okay.
Mammy Ali says no tape. Yeah. It is.
I know,
It's
I'm
something we joke about
terrible.
now because, as we discussed, tape tends to peel. Doesn't stick brilliantly for a long time. It's a short term, but quick grab.
Absolutely. And you may want to use tape and glue, so you get the best of both worlds.
And I might just do that.
I've influenced you.
You have. So tape is brilliant for gluing ribbon. You don't want to put wet glue on its
No, you
own on a
don't.
ribbon
You
because
do
you are
not.
not going to get that to stick. You're going to be holding that for hours. I will
And none of
put-
us have hours, do we, to sit there holding glue?
I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of wet glue around the edge of my tape. Just because she's watching.
She knows what I'm like.
There we go. So, and I want to cover that line where my stencil didn't quite emboss all the way. Now obviously you can see the glue at the moment. Once it dries clear. You're not going to see it then. So, tape gives me instant grab. The glue will take a little while to dry, but that's fine. The tape is holding it in place for now. So, okay.
But also
coming
this is
together.
a case of have a little look. Do you have a sewer in your family? Or sewist, should I say?
Yeah, have you got a ribbon
Have a
stash?
little look. Are they getting rid of any bits of fabric, any ribbon, any trims that they've used on something? Because you get trims to go around sofas and
Yeah.
different things.
If you've
Cushions.
had a bunch of flowers delivered that have got a nice bit of ribbon or something
Yes.
on them, grab
You'd be
that.
chucking nothing away
Oh,
now.
absolutely
It'll
not.
all be going on your cards.
So, let's have a look. I'm going to go with a little sentiment. And this one says, "You're another year older."
Oh.
Thanks for the reminder.
Oh, it's nearly Cam's birthday.
Yes.
Shouldn't have reminded us though, Cam, should you? You're going to live to regret that decision.
You're telling the wrong people, Cam.
Hey, I get cake. I'm not complaining.
Any cake
It's
is
just
better
the
than nothing.
awkward sit there, have everyone sing to you happy birthday.
Well, it's got to be done.
So I'm just going to stamp this in black ink, and this is just a scrap of the craft card from where I'd
Could
done
you
my
even have
layers.
done that on that bit, couldn't you?
Well, yes, I should have done it on that bit. Okay, don't do what I've done. Use an appropriate size scrap. And I'm going
Just
to
say it.
fussy cut my sentiment as well. So, big scissors for this. Because you've got a long blade, which is longer than my sentiment, it means I can cut in one snip. So I'm going to do this side first. I'm going to cut down. Boop. And because you're doing one long cut, it should be nice and straight with no jagged bits. Ta-da!
That noise is so satisfying.
And then we're going to go up the other side. Try and make sure you've got a nice even gap around your sentiment where possible. But if it's a little bit not straight, that's not a problem. It's a handmade card. It's not meant to be perfect. Snip. There we go. Sentiment done.
That's lovely.
I think I'm going to put my sentiment onto this little bit of copper. Hopefully it's
Ooh.
big enough.
Oh, that's perfect. It's almost as though it was meant to be.
I mean, it wasn't, but yes. Let's pretend it was.
Of course
So,
it is.
I'm going to, because I've got 3 sides that I can line up, make sure I've got the same border, top and bottom, and on the left-hand side. Lay that down. And because this is a mirror cardstock, I am going to have to hold it for a second because it's going to want to slide around all over the place. So we'll just talk amongst ourselves momentarily.
We'll have a little bit of la la la.
A bit of elevator music, yeah. Glue drying music, that's what we should call it. Okay, there we go. And then I just need to finish my bit of copper by just snipping up the other side. There you go, same border all the way around.
And again, that brings your eye in, doesn't it?
Helps
Very
to focus
pretty.
on the fact that you are another year older. By the way,
And
this isn't
everybody
I was
wants
going
to
to say, are
write
you
in
making
that.
my birthday card right in front of me?
Wouldn't that be mean? No.
As if.
As
As if, Cam.
Killed 2 birds with 1 stone.
True. I mean, would you like
Maybe.
this card? No, I think you're going to prefer what we've actually got for you.
Oh, right, okay.
So my canvas layer can now go down. Again, making sure I've got a nice even border. In theory, if I've measured everything correctly. There we go. Gluing onto Miri, so again you just need to give it a few seconds so it doesn't start sliding around all over the shop. Doesn't take long with Cardstock, and if you, the thing I love about satin Miri, it doesn't matter if the glue comes out around the edge. You can just wipe it off. Okay, and then I'm going to pop my little wreath, just like that. I'm going to put this on with...
I'm watching.
It's very scary. So, a little bit of tape. Just again, I'm gluing onto the Hessian. So I'm going to put a couple... How many pairs of scissors do I have here?
All of them.
All the scissors.
Shows how many you need, doesn't it? But when you lose one, you need another.
Yep. Different scissors for different jobs.
Absolutely.
I tend to keep one that I use for cutting tape because they do get a little bit sticky. I have a little sharp pair for fussy cutting, a long pair for long straight cuts, and I tend to have a pair of ribbon scissors as well.
I love a pair of ribbon scissors. I usually tie a piece of ribbon to the handle because there's nothing worse than you go and cut ribbon and you've been cutting paper with your scissors because it isn't, your paper is always going to blunt your scissors.
Or you've been cutting red line tape with your scissors and they're a bit gunky and you try and cut ribbon and you're just chewing up the end of your pretty ribbon. No. Last thing, I have a little bit of twine. I'm just going to tie just a knot. I'm not even going to do a bow on this. So where I've got like a nice little natural dent in here between a leaf and an acorn, just a little knot.
That's a nice little idea as well.
It's adding decoration without, again, it being too fluffy or, dare I say it, girly.
Don't say that word.
No.
But again, look at what you're using. You know, maybe if it was for a girl, you could use a little bit of ribbon.
Yep.
And maybe you'd colour the card in differently.
There we go, little knot. So I've put my red line tape roughly across the back like that, so it sits across my Hessian. Some nice flat layers on this. Even though we do have lots of layers going on, none of them are, actually, I'm going to change that. I want my ribbon down the bottom, my twine at the bottom.
I like that.
Last up then, sentiment is going to go across the middle. This can just have a bit of wet glue on either side. Just like that. And then our little decorations that we painstakingly fussy cut earlier can go on. So a little acorn.
Oh, that's pretty.
And a little green leaf. Just give that a second. Please don't drop off. Quick little one on the inside. Obviously you could stamp more of your sentiment in here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple of other things in here that I could have put. I think the last thing I'm going to do, since it's here, it would be really
You may
hard
as well.
There you go, this is what this is for. I'll use a misstamped bit. I'm just going to test my drops on a piece of scrap card, make sure they're working. Let's add a little couple of drops down here.
That is a delightful card.
Thank you. There we go. That's all it needs. So I embrace white space. And it's obviously not white, but it's blank space. I don't fill my cards. I tend to leave space around the edge of what I'm doing. So there we go. A very simple little card. No die cutting involved. Just a bit of... Now this you could even do with a stencil.
Yes.
Just actually put the mousse through the stencil rather than emboss with it, and then you wouldn't even need a die cutting machine.
Perfect.
Simple as that. Okay, let's move all this out of the way and then it will magically be ours turn. And as if by magic, we have swept the decks and now Al is going to show you her simple card idea.
So I've gone with a square card, and this is a 7x7. So my first layer, let me just have a little check. What did I cut this to? Let's have a look on the inches. 7x7 inches, that's what I'm saying. And this is 6-inch square. So I wanted a nice little wide border. But what I've also done with this, I don't know whether you can see, I've gone around the outside with a glue pen and I've gilded a layer. So it looks like a faux layer. That could be done with ink, it could be done with mousse.
A pen?
A pen, yes.
A marker or something
yes,
like
you
that.
could. As well as that, then I came in and I think it was a 1/2 centimetre. And the only reason I used a centimetre was because I only wanted a small increment. And I embossed a line just on the inside.
So is that using the scoring board?
With the scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
With the scoreboard. So it added a little bit more detail. But I think that's quite effective. So let's get a little bit of glue on there. There we are. No, I don't need one. That's the one I want. That's the one. So pop a little bit of glue around the outside of that. And try and get it even. So I'm looking around the outside of this. Am I even all the way around? Have I got any wonky lines? Turn your card and have a good look at it. I think
And so you can also use your grid to help you to line up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if I look where that is, and I think I'm pretty straight on there.
This is another reason why we'd recommend wet glue, because when you put wet glue down, you've got a few seconds to kind of wiggle it slightly.
Exactly.
It doesn't immediately grab.
No.
So if you do have a layer that's slightly wonky, you can just slide it into place.
Yes, you can. So then I've cut another layer then, which sits inside my scored line. And this one I think is 1/2 inch smaller, if I remember rightly. So this is 5.5 inches. And then I've gone down another 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, quarter I think that one is. That one is 5.25. So we've got 5.5, 5.25. And this is a little piece of a paper pad that I had. I just thought it was a beautiful image. So this one I'm going to glue to my pink card. But then I'm going to create a little bit of depth, which we haven't really talked about during this video, have we?
No.
So by creating depth, I'm going to pop this layer onto some foam pads. So again, I'm looking at the top layer here, I'm looking at the side, and I'm looking at the bottom. Because if I've got 3 of them right,
the 4th one in theory should be.
The chances I'm right with that one. And I'm a little bit out, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a slide. And I think that's pretty good. Okay, so what have I got next? I'm going to bring some foam pads in, but not quite yet. And that is going to sit there. Again, we could offset it. It could be a jaunty angle. That's your choice. It's what your artistic eye says to you. So I've stamped a little sentiment. So we've got best wishes. And I've cut a border just about 1/2 centimetre bigger, I would say. And I'm going to glue these together as well. There we go. Again, same theory. If 3 are right, then the 4th has got to be right. There we are. So I'm going to bow that slightly. I'm going to create some depth on this card. So I've got a little bit, it's tweaked a little bit. There we are. I'm going to get some foam pads. So I've got a nice big foam pads for this one. But I'm also going to put a ribbon. Again, I don't really want to obscure the 2 roses because I think they are so pretty. So I'm going to pop a ribbon just along the bottom. So what do we put ribbon on with? It's got to be tape. There are times I do use tape.
Record this, you know. Note it down.
This day, this year. So again, right, use your mat. Have a little look. You don't want this to be wonky. So again, oh, as she says, and moves it in the way. Right, pop that there.
Do you want to hold the pink layer down with that help?
Yeah, go on then. And I'm going to go just on that line there, and I know I'm roughly straight then. I've left a little bit of an overhang, and the reason I've done that is I'm going to wrap this tape around the back.
It's a good tip when you're using ribbon, because you don't want the ribbon to fray.
No.
And if you just cut it to the exact size of your layer, the chances are the ends are going to
absolutely
unravel slightly, whereas tucking them around the back.
So start one side. Again, try and get it all nice and straight. And around the back.
Gives it a neater finish as well. I
It
think.
does, it does. You could cut a ribbon tail on one side if you wanted to. So that is going to sit nicely there. So I'm going to pop some foam pads. I'm obviously going to be hand delivering this because of all the depth, because it's going to add more to my postage. So I'm trying to balance everything out here because I don't want the layer to collapse. So I'm putting one foam pad in the middle and then one on each corner.
I think that's something that's important. I see a lot of people covering the entire layer in foam pads. You really don't need to do that. It is too much.
Absolutely.
As long as your cardstock is supported from underneath, that's really all it needs.
So I'm looking at my score line and I'm coming in just slightly from that. And I think we're about right there. The beauty of our foam pads, they give you a little bit of wiggle room. If I've put that down and I think, no, it's not right, I can take that off and I can reposition it. So we'll have another go. It was pretty straight, mind. I just wanted to show you. There we go. So looking from the top now, I've got a nice little bit of depth coming into my card. I'm going to create another little bit of depth now. I want this to kind of bow on the front. So I'm going to put some foam pads into the centre. So I'm going to take one of these big foam pads. I'm going to cut it in half. Where did that go? Oh, that crept away from me. Put one on top of the other. Doesn't matter if they're not exactly the same size. And then just pop that into the middle. And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the outside. So the middle bit is going to bow and the bottom is going to stick. So I'm going to leave that. I'm coming in a little bit from the sides. You can see a little bit of ribbon. And I'm going to press down in the middle. But again, I've created a little bit more depth to my card. And I'm checking that I'm straight with the bottom. You're either going to do it that you're very skewiff or you need to be straight. You can't have it just a little bit out.
No, if you were going to offset your layers, they have to be very offset. Otherwise, it just looks like you've glued it slightly crooked.
Exactly.
You don't want that.
No, that's not the effect you're going for, is it? So I am going to add, which I didn't turn the glue gun on. I'll give that a couple of seconds. I had it all ready, but I didn't turn it on. So I've cut some flowers with a punch. You may have a little punch in your craft room. But I've also done some centres. Oops. If you're going to put crystal drops into the centre of flowers that you've shaped, the chance is they're going to collapse and you may have a hole. They make like a donut crystal drop. So I've put some onto some release paper. So this is our double-sided sticky sheets. This is still the sticky sheet. I've just used the outside of it.
So non-stick paper, basically.
Yes. You can do it onto acetate, which I tried as well. But what I found was they spread a bit more and they joined in the middle. So you either make them smaller and spread them out a lot more, but they will still pop off acetate.
I think I've seen someone do it on a Easy Clean or a Messy Mat
Mhm.
before.
Yes,
Yeah,
you can do it on that. I think Eugenie has done it recently in our group as well. But these come off ever so easily. So there we
if
are.
you're one of those people that is very worried about using drops because you don't get them perfect first time, you can do them like this and then stick them onto your project if you don't want to drop straight onto
Yes,
your
you
card
can.
front.
So I'm using hot glue because it's a quick grab. Wet glue is not going to do it at this point. I find a hot glue better for ribbon. So I don't need that anymore. Oh, I may do for these actually. So I've got a couple of little flowers. So what am I going to do with these? I think I'm going to add 2 on the corner here and I'm going to put 1 on the ribbon. Or maybe...
Oh, now there's something we didn't talk about. The rule of triangles for embellishments.
Yes.
So embellishment wise, probably you want to go with odd numbers, not even numbers.
Yes.
And when you're adding things to a card, think of a triangle. So you'll put 2 or 4 in one place and then 1 in a rough triangle. That's how I was taught to do it anyway.
Yeah. I
And
was always taught an odd number.
odd number for sure. Even numbers don't look right.
There we are. Not my glue gun off. So I've gone with 2 on the ribbon, 1 in the corner.
I like that.
The reason I've gone 1 down here is space-wise. I've got more space over here than I have over here. And that virtually makes a triangle, doesn't it? I've gone up and down.
Yep.
So that is my triangle. I'm going to pop a little bit of glue into the centre of these flowers. And then I'm going to drop in... Oh, stuck to my finger. My ready-made crystal drop. There we are. That's what I wanted. There we go. Last one. So I've gone very, very girly. Leo went a little bit less girly.
There we go.
They are both very simple cards that anyone could create at home. And I think you'll find they're both absolutely gorgeous.
I love your card. It's so cute.
Oh, thank you.
The paper is beautiful. And this is what we were saying, you know, if you've got a lovely piece of pattern paper like that, make that your layer.
Yeah.
Show it off, highlight it.
You don't need anything else.
No.
A little sentiment, maybe a little decoration. You may not even want that. You could just put your sentiment. That would be it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video.
Hopefully you found it useful and it's given you some starting ideas if you've never made cards or it's something you want to get into.
Yes.
Or if you're already a bit of a card maker, maybe we've given you a couple of techniques or explained some things for you. Hopefully this will be the start of a series that is completely dedicated to card making. That's hopefully what we're going for. So this is kind of our beginner's guide and we're going to add to it from here. So what kind of things would you like to see? Are there any specific types of cards that you would like us to show and sort of demonstrate for you? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to sort of build to what you would like to see going forwards.
We kind of thought some card folds, didn't we?
Yeah, card folds. We're going to maybe talk about shaker cards and things like that. You know, lots of card making is such a huge topic. There's no way that we could put all of it into just one 1 hour video.
No.
It's not going to happen.
No.
So we think if we break this up, look at lots of different topics, and hopefully it's something that you'll find interesting going forwards as well. Like I said earlier, if you do have any questions or comments, please do pop them below. We're going to come back and answer as many as we can for you once this video goes out. Have you enjoyed this? Make sure you give us a little thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. This is one of our Tonic Tuesdays.
Absolutely.
We do every Tuesday except the first Tuesday of the month. You will find some kind of tip, technique or tutorial from us. So come back and watch those and hit the notification bell.
Ding!
So you don't miss any videos when we post them for you. Tag us as well. Tag us in your makes. It's something that we say all
love
the
to see
time.
them.
We do. We
really
absolutely
do.
love to see it. We've got our official Facebook group over on Facebook. You can post all of your creations in there. I would love to see cards that you've made.
Yes.
We don't really see a lot of cards there.
No,
It tends
we
to be more
don't.
3D things. So where are my card makers at? Show us what
Come
you've been
on.
making. I know you're out there. So we'll see you all again very soon. Happy crafting.
Bye.